Emma had spent hours examining the construction cost estimates, trying to find the reason why the building materials were so expensive. But she couldn't find the error that lurked in the calculations. If Terry were alive, he would have handled this easily. He had a construction education, so he would quickly find the wrong overestimated quantities. "Terry, how am I supposed to live without you?" the woman thought. 4 years have passed since her husband died of a massive heart attack, but Emma still hasn't learned to live alone. It was very difficult for a woman to manage the restaurant, especially after the fire had occurred there, and the restaurant had almost completely burned down. Emma has always been a faithful assistant to her husband, and she understood the details of the restaurant business quite well. But it was difficult for her to deal with the building renovation and the communication with the builders. Terry was the one who always handled such matters, thinking that it was not necessary for a woman to be involved in such matters. He worked very hard, and everything was fine until a certain point. Terry was a strong man, but prices in the restaurant business went up. There were problems with competitors, and then his beloved mother passed away, and all these problems finally broke him down. Terry was unable to withstand such problems. The man just clutched his heart, sitting by the fireplace, dropped a mug with mulled wine, and died. When the paramedics arrived, they only confirmed his death. Emma's heart ached when she thought of her husband. For 15 years of married life, they had become one. Yes, there were arguments, misunderstandings, and conflicts, but they had never crossed the line. After Terry's death, Emma was often tormented by the question, were all their decisions right? They really wanted a comfortable and wealthy life and wanted to create a successful business. When they were young, they tried their luck in several types of businesses, putting all their efforts and savings into it and leaving themselves no time for anything else. While their peers were getting married, divorced, and having children, they were focused on business. When Emma turned 33, they realized it was time to think about children, because the restaurant was already functioning steadily and generating a good income. But when Emma finally managed to get pregnant, a miscarriage happened, and another one, and then she couldn't get pregnant anymore. Perhaps, if they had decided to have children in their 20s, by now, she would have a grown-up son or daughter. People say that 40 years old is the time when life begins and becomes meaningful. But for some reason, Emma felt as if the best part of her life was already over. Her beloved husband died. She had no kids, and instead of kids, she had only one restaurant that recently burned down. But that restaurant helped her survive. Her husband opened it, and now this restaurant was her only reason to live. If she constantly thought she was all alone, she'd probably lose her mind. I have to find a mistake in these documents. I don't want to change a construction company again. They all have the same goal: to finish as many orders as they can and make as much money as possible. I have to accept this and learn to find their tricks to increase the prices, she thought, and started to examine the papers. Emma spent another 2 hours desperately trying to find errors in the prices and quantities of building materials, checking information on the internet. But soon, she gave up. She had a degree in nutrition, and it was difficult for her to understand construction matters. She would have to go to the builders again and try to negotiate with them to reduce the prices without any proof. When the woman arrived at the restaurant, she saw that nothing had changed. The facade works were still incomplete, and the roofing works had been postponed due to rain. The foreman must have sent his employees to some other site again so that he could make more money. Emma thought angrily and went to look for the foreman. The foreman was in the banquet hall. His employees were taking out the construction waste. "Nick, what the hell is going on?" Emma asked without saying hello. "You promised me that the facade and roof works would be finished in a week, but nothing has changed. You missed the deadlines, so I demand to reduce the prices. Do you even realize how much money I'm losing because the restaurant is not working now? We agreed on certain deadlines, but you ignored them. Nick, you will have to pay a penalty for not finishing the work on time." There was no such clause in the contract, the foreman said calmly. Besides, it's been raining for the last 3 days, which is a force majeure. Moreover, according to the estimates, there should be 7 people working on this site. But in fact, there are only 5 people working here, and they don't work every day. If you lie to your employees the way you lie to me, no wonder they don't want to work for your company. Emma continued yelling. Miss, Nick said irritably, do you have any idea how difficult it is to find a skilled construction worker, considering the wages you specify in the contract? Do you even realize how many hidden works have been discovered here? Now, we have to fix defects that could not be detected during the initial inspection. I'm sure you don't understand anything about construction. I described everything here. And the man handed her some papers. You are complaining without understanding anything. You should better go and work on a new restaurant menu instead of interfering with our work. Emma didn't know what to say to the foreman. After all, she really had no idea what hidden works were and how to detect them. The woman failed to convince the foreman to change the prices. Nick is so cunning, she thought with resentment. When the man turned to Emma and called her miss, she felt even more offended, even more alone and helpless. I don't want to burst into tears right here, Emma thought, and quickly made her way to another part of the restaurant. Every corner reminded her of her happy life with Terry. They worked on the interior together. Terry even made some decorations and furniture himself. She still remembered how they had chosen the color of the walls together, where they had bought the furniture, and how they had argued about the type of chandelier for the banquet hall. These memories kept her from selling the restaurant to her husband's former partners. They offered to purchase the restaurant almost immediately after Terry's death. The restaurant was located in the heart of the city, near the waterfront. There were always a lot of people, and the views from the summer terrace were magnificent. Terry found this place when it was deserted, and he saw an opportunity to turn it into a wonderful restaurant. Selling this place meant selling the memory of Terry. Emma's thoughts were interrupted by some noise coming from the banquet hall. The woman worked there and saw a man with a boy. This man was about 40 years old, wearing an old tattered jacket and shabby jeans. He was talking to the foreman. I'm begging you, give me a job. I know that construction sites never have enough workers. I used to work in this field, and I'm willing to do anything you say. I really need a job. I need to feed my son. I have no idea who you are and what you want. I have expensive building materials here. I'm not sure you're not a thief. Get out, Nick answered rudely. But the man didn't leave, hoping to get a job and earn some money. Emma watched this conversation from afar. This man didn't look like an alcoholic or a thief. Finally, Emma walked over and asked the foreman, Nick, why are you refusing to hire him? 5 minutes ago you said you were desperately lacking construction workers. Emma asked. Because I'm responsible for the safety of the building materials you paid for, Nick replied, wrinkling his nose in displeasure. If you're going to look for new workers based on CV and recommendations, I'm afraid the renovations at my restaurant won't even be finished by Christmas, Emma said with a frown. That man is willing to work hard and do whatever you tell him to do. Give him a chance. And don't worry about the building materials. I paid for them, not you. Let him work here today. I'll pay for his work myself. Workers quit your company almost every day, so all the deadlines are overdue. Honestly, I'm sick of this repair process. I just want to finish it as soon as possible. Okay, what's your name? The foreman asked grudgingly. My name is Patrick. Patrick, get to work right now. I have to check out what you can do. If you work hard, I will hire you. If not, you will have to look for a new job. Okay, what should I do? Patrick asked excitedly. First, help the guys remove the construction debris, and then go unload the bricks from the truck. We're going to make a porch today. You have to bring the bricks to the other workers. I hope you weren't lying and really have experience in construction. The new employee quickly took the trash bag, while Nick quietly told the worker standing next to him, tell Derek and Tyler to go work on the porch. I need that insolent jerk to get out of here as soon as possible, preferably today. But what if he doesn't leave and wants to work with us? The guy said doubtfully, looking at Patrick's muscular arms. If he doesn't leave, I'll give you a bottle of cognac, Nick said quickly, and hurried to the truck with bricks. Patrick turned out to be a strong, hard-working man. He unloaded the bricks effortlessly, humming a song and exchanging jokes with his co-workers. He immediately made friends with the team. Moreover, looking at Patrick, all the workers started working faster too. By the end of the shift, Nick was surprised to see that the new worker didn't leave, and the workers had done even more work than he had expected. So you really do have experience in construction. You weren't lying, the foreman said with a squint. You owe me a bottle of cognac, Nick, as you promised. One of the workers said with a sly smile. Let me buy the cognac. After all, today is my first work day, so we can celebrate, Patrick said cheerfully. We don't drink at work, the co-worker replied. But when we finish the work here, we can celebrate. By the way, well done, Patrick. But why is your son at the construction site all day instead of playing with the kids at the playground? We moved to this city a few days ago. We don't know anyone here yet, Patrick said. Have you found a place to sleep? Nick asked, assuming the man might be in trouble. Seeing that Patrick shrugged, the foreman said, you and the boy can spend the night right here. There are sofas inside that survived the fire. You can sleep on them. And there's even a shower. Nick gave Patrick his paycheck for the day and headed for the exit. When Emma arrived a few days later, she saw the restaurant had changed significantly. The facade was finished, and even the porch was much better than it had been described in the contract. Nick was standing on the porch of the restaurant, looking at Emma proudly. So, Emma, are you happy with the result now? He asked ironically. Of course I am. I didn't even expect you to get it done so quickly. Emma replied calmly. But how did you manage it? It's some kind of magic. If I was a magician, I would be on vacation in Mexico, not renovating your restaurant, Nick replied rudely. But thanks to you, we have a new worker who is not only good at unloading bricks, but also knows how to create great architectural ideas. I don't know who taught him that. Usually, people with such knowledge and skills have a decent income and work in a comfortable office, not on a construction site. By the way, he doesn't have a place to live in our city yet. I let him and the child sleep at your restaurant. I hope you don't mind. No, of course not. What's his profession? Has he told you anything about himself? I've tried to find out anything about his background, but he doesn't tell me much about himself. But he certainly has experience in construction. He offers very interesting ideas, and the best part is that he can bring them to life himself. But I have no idea what happened in his life. I'm a builder, not a psychologist. It's important to me that he does everything I say, and I don't care about anything else. After these words, Nick headed to the workers, and Emma went inside the restaurant and decided to look at Patrick from the window. The foreman's story about this mysterious man intrigued her. Patrick was plastering the walls skillfully, and Emma could see that he was comfortable doing this work. And his son was running around, sometimes handing his father some tools or just watching him work. It seemed that they understood each other without words. However, it was clear from the expressions on their faces that they had serious problems in life. Maybe, with Patrick's help, I'll finally finish this damn renovation, Emma thought and headed for the exit. Finally, the renovation work was moving very quickly. Emma thanked fate that she had met Patrick. He offered great construction solutions with minimal costs. Nick began to treat Patrick with respect despite his initial opinion of him. It was finally clear when the renovation would be finished. Emma's competitors offered to sell the restaurant to her again, and obviously, she refused. But shortly after another refusal, a phone call woke Emma up in the middle of the night. Someone set the restaurant on fire again. If it wasn't for Patrick and his son, the whole place would have burned down. Nick shouted furiously. Emma quickly put on a tank top and jeans and went to the restaurant. The source of ignition was small. It was a far corner of the kitchen, where the finishing works were not even finished yet. But the competitor's plan was correct. This part of the building was hardly visible from the street, and people would notice it only when the fire consumed the whole building. The competitors probably didn't know Patrick was sleeping in the restaurant, or they expected that the man would sleep soundly after a hard shift. "Where is Patrick now?" Emma asked in confusion. "He's in the hospital right now," Nick said gloomily. He tried to extinguish the fire with a bag while Colin called emergency services. But there was some kerosene residue on the bag, so Patrick's clothes burst into flames. In general, he is doing okay, but his face was injured by the fire. An ambulance took him to the hospital. Colin went to the hospital with his father. "I hope Patrick will be okay," the foreman said in frustration. "I'm going to the hospital," Emma said as she opened the car door. The hallway at the hospital was empty. Only a sad Colin was sitting on the couch, wiping away his tears. "What did the doctor say?" Emma asked, putting her hand on the boy's shoulder. "They say Dad's condition is stable." Colin repeated the phrase he had heard from the doctors. His face was burned, but they managed to save his eyesight. After saying that, the boy started crying. "Why does life punish me so badly? My mom died, and I had to wait for my dad at my aunt's for 5 years. And when things started to get better, my father ended up in the hospital." "Colin, dear, everything is going to be okay. Your dad's life is not in danger, and I will pay for the treatment," Emma said and hugged the boy. "But why did you wait for your dad for so long?" Colin looked at her with his huge brown eyes. In those eyes, the woman saw fear, pain, and gratitude. But the boy didn't answer that question. Instead, he lowered his head and tried to wipe the soot off his fingers. Emma didn't ask any more questions. She entered Patrick's room and saw that his face and hands were bandaged. "I'm sorry to bother you," Emma said in confusion, not knowing what to say. "I just wanted to ask if you needed any help. And also thank you for saving my restaurant." It seemed to the woman that her words sounded strange, that they didn't correspond to what she was feeling right now. "Don't thank me. Anyone would do the same. The most important thing is that I'm alive," Patrick said glumly. "However, recently, I was homeless. But now I'm ugly." "Don't say that," Emma uttered fearfully. "I asked the doctors about your condition, and they said that plastic surgery is possible. You helped me save a lot of money renovating my restaurant, and now, thanks to you, I will open my restaurant again. I promise I'll pay for your treatment and plastic surgery. And don't worry about your son, I'll look after him. I don't have children, so I'll be happy to spend time with him. He's a big boy, and he's very independent, so he won't cause you any trouble," Patrick said, trying to smile under the bandages. "Thank you for your care about us. You're a very nice woman, Emma, and you have a lovely restaurant. Too bad I won't be able to finish the renovations in it." "Actually, you will be able to finish the renovations," Emma replied confidently. "Nick will come to you for consultations every week, show you pictures, and you will be able to modify the projects remotely. First of all, you have to figure out who set your restaurant on fire. I think they want to take it away from you, and they will not stop until they get what they want." "You're a very experienced man," Emma said and fell silent for a few seconds. "I didn't dare to ask you. I can see that you're a great professional and a good person. But why do you and Colin keep moving from one city to another?" "Let's talk about that another time," Patrick replied. "I'm in the hospital. I can barely move. I'm not in the mood to talk about my life. I'll tell you everything when I get better." Patrick turned his face to the window, making it clear that the conversation was over. Emma slowly walked out of the room into the hallway, where a sad Colin was still sitting. From that day on, Emma was busy not only with the repairs at the restaurant, but also with the investigation about the fire and taking care of Colin. and Nick would go to Patrick every day at the hospital and ask for advice. Emma told the police about the persistent offers to sell the restaurant and also found a good lawyer. The investigation revealed that one of her late husband's business partners had hired the guys who set the restaurant on fire. Emma and Colin went to see Patrick every day. She talked to him, cheered him up, and joked, but didn't ask questions about his past again. Finally, the renovations were finished. Meanwhile, Patrick was already at the plastic surgery clinic. Nick received payment for the finished work, but when he was saying goodbye to Emma, he handed her an envelope with the money and said, "Here's some money from our team. Give it to Patrick. If he wants to come back to our company when he's a handsome man again, we'd be happy." On the day of Patrick's discharge from the plastic surgery clinic, Emma was worried. He had become a close friend to her, although she still knew nothing about his past. Also, the woman became attached to Colin during this time. She felt as if she'd known the boy forever. The best plastic surgeon in the city performed the surgery without complications. There were no burn marks on his face, only a slight change in his facial features and some small scars. Patrick was overjoyed with the result. It was obvious that he was also very excited about meeting Emma. After dinner, when Colin went to his room, Patrick frowned slightly and said, "Emma, I promised to tell you about my life. I think it's the right time now. You and Nick are not mistaken. I really used to work as a construction engineer for a big company. My projects were in high demand. I was making good money and expected to have a great future. But there is competition in our business, like everywhere else. I was set up by a colleague who wanted to take my position. I don't want to go into detail about it, but eventually, I was accused of getting a bribe from a contractor. The police found marked banknotes in my office. My colleague's friends worked for the police. The money didn't even have my fingerprints on it, but I couldn't prove that I wasn't guilty. I ended up going to prison for 6 years. The court didn't even take into account that I had Colin and a pregnant wife. My wife suffered a lot of stress because of this situation, and she died of severe bleeding during childbirth. The baby could not be saved either. While I was in prison, Colin lived in my cousin's house. My wife Zoe had a younger sister, and after Zoe died, her sister moved into the apartment where Zoe and I lived, because it was the apartment of my wife's parents. I didn't have time to buy my own place. We were looking for a house when this incident with the bribe happened. 5 years later, I was released from prison. Colin and I came to this city, and I got a job at your restaurant. You already know everything else about me. I'm grateful to you for everything. For the job, for the treatment, and for taking care of Colin. But I wanted to ask you to babysit Colin for a few more days. Nick has offered me a job at a new construction site, but it's in another city. I need to go there and find out everything. Patrick, I have to tell you something. I don't think I can live without you now," Emma said confidently, and pressed Patrick's strong palm against her cheek. When she closed her eyes, she felt his strong hand gently wipe away the tears flowing down her cheeks. His lips whispered something tender and soothing in her ear. Emma realized that everything was changing around her, and she felt safe and peaceful for the first time since Terry's death.